Imagine this, the Earth, 70,000 years ago. The savannas of Africa stretch endlessly. Herds of gazelles run freely, lions rest in the shade, and tiny bands of humans, just another species among many, move quietly through the grasslands. They are small in number, fragile compared to the mighty predators around them, yet they carry within them something no other animal has, the seed of imagination. That seed will soon change everything, turning these insignificant apes into the rulers of the planet. This is the story of us, Homo sapiens. Not just our biology, but our myths, our revolutions, and our astonishing ability to reshape the world. Yuval Noah Harari, in Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, invites us to step back and look at the vast arc of human history. And when we do, we see that our rise was not inevitable. It was a series of strange turns, lucky breaks, and powerful inventions, not of tools, but of stories. The dawn of Sapiens. When our story begins, there were many kinds of humans. We were not alone. Neanderthals roamed Europe and Western Asia, strong and well adapted to the cold. Denisovans lived in parts of Asia, and other species like Homo erectus survived in Indonesia. We, Homo sapiens, were just one branch of a rich human family tree. If you had lived 100,000 years ago, you would not have called us special. We were slender, weaker than Neanderthals, and we struggled to survive. So what made us different? Why are we the only humans left today? Harari argues that the answer lies in what he calls the cognitive revolution, a shift in our brains that allowed us to imagine things that do not exist. Think about it. Animals can communicate, monkeys can warn of predators, bees can describe where flowers are. But humans developed something far greater, fiction. Around campfires, our ancestors began to tell stories, not only about lions and rivers, but about spirits, gods, and rules. They began to believe in shared myths. A myth is powerful because it exists only in our collective imagination. No single human can touch money, justice, or a nation. And yet, millions of humans will fight, work, and die for these invisible ideas. This ability, to cooperate flexibly in large groups through shared fictions, is the superpower of our species. Because of it, Homo sapiens spread out of Africa, entering Europe, Asia, and beyond. Wherever we went, other human species disappeared. Perhaps we outcompete them for resources. Perhaps we fought and drove them away. Perhaps, in some places, we mixed with them, as modern DNA reveals traces of Neanderthals and Denisovans in us. Whatever the method, one fact is clear: by 30,000 years ago, we stood alone. The other humans were gone. The Age of Foragers. For tens of thousands of years, our ancestors lived as foragers, hunting, gathering, moving with the seasons. Their lives were not easy, but they were balanced. Foragers had rich diets, eating berries, nuts, meat, fish, and roots. They spent time telling stories, creating art, and building social ties. In caves across Europe, they painted stunning murals of animals, not as decoration but perhaps as part of rituals, myths, or dreams. These forager societies shaped our psychology. The way we gossip, cooperate, and form friendships today still carries the imprint of small tribes that lived in constant movement. If a tribe grew too large, gossip could not hold it together, so stories, myths, totems, rituals, were invented to unite larger numbers. This way of life lasted for tens of thousands of years, far longer than farming, industry, or modern technology. If time were a movie, for 90 minutes humans lived as foragers. Farming appeared in the last few minutes, and modern industry in the last seconds. And yet, 12,000 years ago, everything changed. The agricultural shift. On the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates, in the valleys of China, in the hills of Central America, humans began to plant seeds and domesticate animals. It may have started accidentally: grains spilled and sprouted, animals tamed themselves by hanging around human camps. But once humans noticed the pattern, they leaned in. Why wander for food when you could grow it in one place? Thus began the agricultural revolution. At first, it seemed like progress. Villages grew, food surpluses were stored, and populations expanded. But Harari calls it history's greatest fraud. Why? Because the lives of farmers were often harder than those of foragers. Foragers ate varied diets, farmers relied on wheat, rice, or maize, which were less nutritious. Foragers worked a few hours a day, farmers labored from dawn till dusk. And farmers lived packed together with animals, which spread diseases. Skeletons show that early farmers were shorter and less healthy than their foraging ancestors. So why did we keep farming? Because it allowed more people to survive, even if their lives were worse. Wheat, rice, and corn thrived, and in exchange they spread their genes across the planet by turning humans into their servants. As Harari quips, we didn't domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated us. With farming came surpluses, and with surpluses came new problems. Who owns the grain? Who decides how to share it? Who defends it from raiders? Out of these questions arose politics, kings, armies, and taxation. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Cities became kingdoms. The first empires were born, fueled by harvests. And with them came inequality. Some humans controlled grain and land, while others bent their backs in endless toil. Women bore more children, tied to farms and households, while elite men wrote laws and built monuments. The agricultural revolution made civilization possible, but it also created hierarchy, war, and oppression. Still, once we stepped onto this path, there was no turning back. Populations grew, and societies locked into the agricultural trap. Humanity had chosen complexity over freedom. As farming villages spread across the continents, humans found themselves living in ever larger groups. But with size came chaos. A tribe of 50 people could be held together by gossip and personal trust. A village of 500 could rely on tradition and memory. But what about a city of 50,000? Or an empire of millions? How could so many strangers cooperate without tearing each other apart? The answer was one of humanity's greatest inventions: shared myths. We humans are the only creatures who can cooperate flexibly in huge numbers because we believe in common stories. Two Catholics who have never met can join forces because they both believe in the same God. Two merchants from distant lands can trade because they both trust the same idea of money. Two citizens of a nation can fight side by side because they both believe in the flag. The power of imagined orders. Consider money. A dollar bill is just paper. A coin is just metal. Even digital money is Importantly, empires created a world where cultures mixed. Greek philosophy influenced Islamic scholars. Indian numerals shaped European science. Chinese inventions like paper and gunpowder transformed the globe. Without empires, human knowledge would have remained scattered and isolated. The unification of humankind. As centuries passed, three great forces worked to unify humanity: money, empires, and universal religions. Money created trust between strangers. Empires brought diverse peoples under one rule. Religions spread universal morals across boundaries. By the Middle Ages, the map of the world was no longer divided into isolated tribes. It was a patchwork of interacting civilizations, trading, fighting, and learning from one another. But something new was brewing on the horizon. A force that would change the course of history more than any king or priest ever could: science. The scientific revolution. Around 500 years ago, humans discovered a powerful truth: we don't know. In ancient times, people believed all answers were already written, whether in sacred texts or in the wisdom of ancestors. But in the 16th century, Europeans like Copernicus, Galileo, and later Newton began to question. They observed the stars, tested hypotheses, and admitted ignorance. They said, "We don't know, but we can find out." This humility was revolutionary. It created the modern scientific method: observe, experiment, and revise. And with it came power. Telescopes revealed the heavens. Microscopes revealed tiny life. Medicine improved. Ships sailed farther. Guns grew deadlier. Science and empire soon formed a dangerous partnership. Explorers like Columbus and Magellan sailed with both curiosity and conquest. European nations financed voyages not only to gain knowledge but also to find wealth and land. Colonies were conquered with the help of science, maps, gunpowder, and navigation. And in turn, colonies funded more science. This marriage of science, empire, and capital unleashed the modern world. As science spread, it merged with another force that would transform human society even more profoundly: capitalism. Money alone had allowed trade between strangers, but capitalism introduced a daring idea: the future could be turned into profit. Banks, investors, and entrepreneurs began to lend resources to projects not yet complete, betting on discoveries, inventions, and markets that did not yet exist. This created a feedback loop unlike anything before. Science demanded funding. Funding demanded profit. Profit demanded growth. And growth demanded more science. Suddenly, the speed of human innovation exploded. Where before centuries passed between major discoveries, now decades, years, and even months became enough to reshape society. The Industrial Revolution took this to an entirely new level. Factories replaced workshops. Steam engines replaced muscle and wind. Coal and oil fueled machines that could produce more than entire villages had before. Cities swelled. People left the countryside for factories. Social hierarchies shifted. The world's energy balance tipped toward humans. For the first time, human labor, ingenuity, and resources could dramatically reshape landscapes, rivers, forests, and even the climate itself. But progress brought contradictions. For the first time, humans could live longer, healthier lives, yet the new urban poor often suffered in crowded, unsanitary conditions. Machines eased work for some but replaced jobs for others. Imperial powers exploited colonies to feed industrial growth, often causing immense suffering. Harari calls this a pattern of power, wealth, and inequality repeating at larger scales. Alongside industry came consumerism, the belief that happiness comes from acquiring more goods, more experiences, and more status. Unlike foragers, who measured wealth by social bonds and health, industrial humans measured it by the size of their houses, the shine of their possessions, and the pace of their consumption. Advertising, media, and social pressure shaped desires and reinforced the global economy. Humanity was no longer simply surviving, it was striving endlessly. Meanwhile, science continued to advance, but its scope expanded beyond nature into ourselves. Medicine, genetics, and psychology gave humans tools to manipulate bodies, brains, and even emotions. Biotechnology now promises to rewrite DNA. Artificial intelligence promises to replicate intelligence itself. For the first time, humans face the possibility of designing the next stage of evolution, ourselves. Harari poses a fundamental question: will Homo sapiens remain what we have been for 70,000 years, or will we create a new species altogether? Already, genetic engineering, neural enhancement, and cybernetics hint at a post-human future. The species that once relied on imagination and myth to cooperate may soon rely on algorithms and biotechnology to surpass biological limitations. Yet, even as we gain power, challenges persist. Climate change, nuclear weapons, pandemics, and artificial intelligence create risks unlike any faced in history. Our myths, the ideas we live by, may be insufficient to unite humanity on a planetary scale. Can shared stories prevent global destruction? Can science, technology, and ethics align to secure a future for life on Earth? The story of Sapiens, from wandering foragers to world rulers, is one of paradox, freedom and oppression, creativity and destruction, joy and suffering, knowledge and ignorance. Every revolution, from cognition to agriculture to science, has brought progress, but also costs. Every imagined order, money, empires, religion, nations, has united, but also divided. Every new discovery has expanded possibilities, but also dangers. And yet, the defining trait of Homo sapiens remains the same as it was 70,000 years ago: our ability to imagine, to create stories, and to cooperate in ways no other species can. It is this imagination that allowed us to dominate the Earth, to build civilizations, to send humans to the moon, and to consider the ethical dilemmas of artificial intelligence. Today, as we look at our rapidly changing world, the lesson of Sapiens is both humbling and inspiring. We are products of chance, evolution, and collective imagination. We are fragile yet powerful. We have rewritten the laws of nature, yet are still subject to them. Our myths built societies, our inventions transformed the planet, and our choices now determine the future of life itself. So, as you watch the world evolve, remember, we are the storytellers. Every empire, every corporation, every movement exists because we collectively believe it does. And perhaps the most important story we will ever tell is the one we are about to write, the story of the future of humanity, the story of what comes after Homo sapiens, and the story of whether we will rise to meet the challenges our own imagination has created. The history of Sapiens is far from over. We have journeyed from small bands in Africa to global dominance, from myths around fires to the digital networks that connect billions. And yet, as we stand at the threshold of designing life itself, one truth remains: our power lies in our imagination, and our responsibility lies in how we use it. This is the story of Sapiens. A story of wonder, tragedy, and possibility. A story that began long before us, and a story that continues with every choice we make today. Sapiens is not just history. It's a mirror. A reminder that our world is built on stories, and the future will depend on the stories we choose to tell next. Backhand index pointing right if you enjoyed this. Subscribe to Knowledge Nuggets for more book summaries that bring the biggest ideas to life.